Let's talk about the scale of damage inflicted on Gaza. A lot of us have seen how destructive the war on Gaza has been. We have all seen the video footage, the media reporting, and the videos shared by people in Gaza. We've also seen Israeli soldiers filming TikTok videos mocking Palestinians as they destroy their homes. At the ICJ hearing, one of the amazing lawyers making the case that Israel has committed genocide said that this is the first genocide in history to be live streamed by the victims. And I would add, live streamed by the perpetrators. But I just want to put the scale of damage and destruction into some kind of context that might help us understand exactly what Israel is doing. The first thing to say is that 70% of the housing stock in Gaza has been destroyed. Now, just imagine the city from which you are watching this, your home. Imagine for a moment 70% of the homes in your city gone. Where will the people in Gaza go? Where will they sleep at night? And when all of this is done, where do they return to? Where do they call home? According to Euromed, this is a European-based conflict statistics organisation, almost 33,000 people have been killed in Gaza in a little over 3 months. That's almost 1.5% of the entire population of Gaza. Just imagine in 3 months, 990,000 people are killed by bombs in the UK. Almost 1 million Brits killed by bombs in 3 months. Just imagine for a moment 5 million Americans killed by bombs in 3 months. 5 million. A study has shown that famine and disease is set to kill significantly more Gazans than the bombs themselves. There are estimates of 500,000 deaths due to disease in the next year directly associated to the conflict. It's hard to imagine anything more apocalyptic. Let's give this some scale so we can understand this a little bit more. Some weeks ago, before Christmas, Russia engaged in a barbaric wave of bombing across the whole of Ukraine. They bombed homes, hospitals, schools, civilian infrastructure in a blitz that involved 160 missiles, rockets, drones. Zelensky described the onslaught as Russia using everything in its arsenal aside from nuclear weapons. It was huge. It was the largest air attack on Ukraine since the horrific war began. In this onslaught, around 60 civilians were killed. 60 innocent lives, 60 people who should be alive today going about their business. Israel kills more people in one missile strike than Russia does in a wave of bombing across the entire nation of Ukraine. Many of us watching this will agree that Russia is committing barbaric war crimes against Ukraine. These crimes now pale in comparison to the damage Israel is inflicting. 12,000 children have died in Gaza in the last 3 months. 12,000 children. In the last 2 years of conflict in Ukraine, Russia has killed a little more than 500 children. 500 children in 2 years in Ukraine. 12,000 children in 3 months in Gaza. It's hard to believe, isn't it? Whatever we think of what Russia is doing in Ukraine, it is a fraction of what Israel is doing in Gaza. But this is the one that truly shocks me. Studies using satellite images have confirmed that there has been more destruction in Gaza by proportion than the destruction caused by the Allies on Germany throughout the entire Second World War. We have all seen the level of destruction of the Second World War, and we all know that those bombs were unguided. To think that more destruction has been inflicted on a 25-mile long strip of land by proportion compared to the destruction seen in the entire country of Germany during 3 or 4 years of carpet bombing in World War II. It is beyond comprehension. But it's unsurprising because studies have revealed that Israel used hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of 2,000-pound bombs, and it continues to use them. These are the strongest standard munitions that exist in a modern army. This size of bomb is capable of causing destruction on a vast scale across a massive area, and it has been shown that 50% of the bombs dropped by Israel, 50% are unguided. That means they're indiscriminate. This explains the high civilian death rate, and it explains the extent of damage that we see. Entire neighborhoods wiped out. North Gaza uninhabitable. Israel has dropped around 30,000 bombs in the last 3 months. About 10,000 bombs a month, more than 300 bombs every day. That's almost 30 bombs an hour. A bomb every 2 minutes. In a strip of land the size of East London. 30,000 bombs in the last 3 months. That's significantly more than the entire number of bombs the USA and UK dropped on the entire nation of Iraq during the invasion. This includes what the USA called shock and awe. You may remember it was an unprecedented wave of bombing in the first few days of the invasion of Iraq. Bush called it shock and awe. Israel is eclipsing that. Euromed estimate that Israel is dropping the equivalent, or has dropped the equivalent, of 2 atomic bombs, like the ones we saw in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. 2 atomic bombs. This on the most densely populated place on Earth, with some of the most impoverished people on Earth, by a military superpower, backed and armed by the US, the world's largest military power, and supported by the UK and our tax money. More civilians have died in Gaza in 3 months than have died in the war against ISIS over 3 years. More than the civilians who were killed in Afghanistan over a 20-year period. 20 years. But Israel will tell you that it is trying its best to minimize civilian deaths, minimize damage and destruction. Anyone who takes an honest and good faith look at the scale of damage inflicted could never begin to believe that this was not intended. But I'm going to leave you with this. Look, buildings can be rebuilt, homes recreated, schools and hospitals can be repaired, but the loss that each family has felt can never be replaced. In Gaza, over 80 families have now been erased from the civil registry. Just take a moment to understand quite what that means. 80 family names, surnames, like you and I have, no longer exist in Gaza. Entire families vanished, erased from history. Families who may have had generation after generation after generation living their life in that region, now gone, never to return. Just take a moment to imagine your surname, your family name, gone, vanished, removed from existence, no one left to carry the name, no one left to carry the memories. Just take a moment to imagine the scale of what is happening in Gaza.